Hello, my name is John Brink and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, the capital of northern BC. And it's an absolute fabulous event today. As you can see behind me, sunshine, blue skies, an absolute beautiful day in Prince George. And our special guest today is Katie Stymiest. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Thanks for having me.
So, cake by Katie.
Yeah.
What does that mean, really? Is that the company you have?
Or? It is. It's the name of my business. It's the name of my blog, and it's kind of grown up along with me.
Yeah. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you from northern BC, or?
I am from northern BC, Prince George. I wasn't born here, but it's all that I know. I moved here with my family. I was really young, about 4 years old.
Okay.
So it's all I know. It's all I remember is Prince George. I did move around for a little bit after high school. And then eventually, after having my second daughter, we brought our family back.
Yeah. And then you have 2 daughters?
3 daughters.
3 daughters?
Yes.
Wow. And you have gone to different provinces as well?
Yeah, we kind of did, me and my husband, the northern oil and gas loop.
Okay.
So we met in Fort St. John, and then we did Fort McMurray, and then we did Sherwood Park and Edmonton, and then back to Fort St. John, and then back to Prince George.
So he's quite involved in the oil and gas business?
Yes, he's a heavy-duty mechanic.
A heavy-duty mechanic,
yeah.
And then that brings him to all the oil rigs and all of that kind of stuff.
All the things, yeah.
And then, so your business, how did that all come about? Caked by Katie.
Yeah.
So where does that come from?
Way back when I had my first daughter, it was in Fort St. John.
Yeah.
Incredibly cold. It was in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
And
not untypical for that.
Oh, no, not untypical at all. And the warmest place in our little tiny house was our kitchen. And our kitchen was maybe the size of these couches. It was tiny.
Yeah.
And I struggled a lot with postpartum depression and anxiety. So I would bundle Bree, my oldest, up, put her on the kitchen counter in her little baby seat. And I would just bake for something to do to keep my hands busy and my mind busy.
Yeah.
And it was warm by the oven.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with baking. And so from each place that we moved, I just would bake, and I'd have this abundance of baked goods in my house, and you can only eat so many muffins at a time.
Exactly.
So I started giving it away to friends, and it'd be anything, cakes, cupcakes, muffins, cookies. And pretty soon it became a joke amongst friends saying oh, I was caked by Katie, because I would just drop off goodies on their front doorstep and leave them.
Yeah.
And it stuck. So I just transformed kind of it into a business and called it Caked by Katie.
And what does the business do other than the obvious? So have you got a storefront then, or?
No, I don't actually do custom cakes or cupcakes or baking anymore.
Right.
It was right before COVID happened. I actually stopped taking orders.
Okay.
And I transitioned into being a food and baking blogger. So what I do now, my business is actually my blog.
Okay.
I create recipes. I share those recipes online. And sometimes that's partnering with other brands. And businesses and companies, and I'm creating recipes tailor-made for their products to share with my audience. I'm creating content for other companies to showcase sprinkles or to showcase a special new butter, and it's just sharing it with everybody.
Is that again under the label of Baked by Katie?
Yep.
And so the blogging, for those of our guests that have maybe heard of it but don't fully understand what blogging is, explain it to us.
So having a blog is basically like having a cookbook, but my cookbook isn't something that you can actually hold in your hands.
Right.
It's on your computer, it's on your phone.
Yeah.
So you would go to cakedbykatie.com, And there is my website, and it's just tells a little bit about me. And it's got all my recipes right there for, whatever it is you want to bake up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you add to that and you interact with your clients on your blog?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So does that go, I ask you a question and say, hi, Katie, I want to do this, that, or the other thing.
Yep, exactly. I want to double this recipe. How much longer should I bake it in the oven for?
Right.
I can't have this one ingredient. Can I swap it for something else?
Right.
Lots of that kind of stuff.
So that's your specialty.
Yeah, yeah.
Not only a hobby, but it's a specialty you developed over the years. Mm-hmm. You became very, very good at it. Is it now a business as well?
Yeah.
How does it create revenue?
So it creates revenue for me in two different streams.
Okay.
One is when I do brand partnerships.
Okay.
So I work a lot with Bulk Barn Canada, and I will create recipes that coincide with, usually it's seasonal content, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, that sort of stuff. So I'm getting revenue from that.
Okay.
And then also from the blog alone, if you've ever been on a blog, you pull it up, you're scrolling through it, you're reading a recipe, and there pops an ad. And you're scrolling through, and there pops another ad. Each time an ad pops up like that, I get 1/100th of a penny.
Yeah.
And it's through an ad company that runs their ads through my blog.
Yeah.
And they pay me out through that. And that's my other revenue stream.
And so, and that again, kind of thinking and talking about technology, because we're doing podcasting. Mm-hmm. Podcasting started about 5-10 years ago, and it's really expanding, mm-hmm. and blogging in a way, and all the other things that happen in technology are all evolving as we speak, more or less.
Hugely.
And so that for the ad company or the people that display ads, for them, what makes you attractive is the amount of following that you have. The more people look at your blog, the more benefit it is to the advertiser.
Absolutely.
And subsequently, they will pay you, mm-hmm.
Exactly. So it's really cyclical in that, the more content I produce, the more people will come and look at it.
Yeah.
The more people that come and look at it, the more these ads are going to get seen.
Right.
So the more ads that are seen, the more money I potentially make, and the more money these ad companies can potentially make.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for you, then it becomes a challenge of creating more customers, mm-hmm. and creating more awareness. How do you do that?
I think staying relevant. There's always a new trend. Staying on top of the seasons especially the food blogging game, you have to be at least 6 weeks ahead of advance.
Right.
So right now I am finishing up my very last Easter recipe and getting that out, putting it out, on Pinterest and all the things, so that it's circulating and it's ready to go for when everybody's like, oh yeah, Easter, I need a treat for Easter. And they go and Google it. Go
to you.
Yeah.
Go to Cooked by Katie.
Yeah.
And automatically they know already that this is what you are going to do.
That I'm going to have something there for them.
Mm-hmm. And is that international or bit?
It is.
Yeah.
It is all over the world, which it still blows my mind. As you know, right?
I know, yeah.
It's amazing that on your phone or your computer, there's an entire world community right there.
Yeah.
And I have people baking these recipes from, my neighbor, and people in South Africa.
The other side of the world.
Yeah. It blows my mind, and it's wild, and it's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I came here to Canada in 1965. It's a long time ago, but but in terms of time, not all that much. But you can pretty much say 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
That if I wanted to, arriving in Prince George, I wanted to communicate to my parents in Holland that I'm okay, and I do it by telegram. Hi, I hope you're okay. Stop, I need money. Stop, and blah blah blah, whatever. And then you send that out, and eventually it would get there, and it would go back. Now I think nothing of it. I pick up my iPhone and I call somebody on the other side of the world and don't even think anything of it.
And it's instant, right?
Instant. And the same with blogging, and the same, I presume, with podcasting. As I explained to you, we are sitting here in our studio and be doing a live podcast now between you and me, but we could also do a virtual podcast on the screen here, and the people that would be watching it would really not know the difference. It is just like the two people are sitting like on CNN side by side, or for that matter, three individuals side by side.
Yeah.
And they can be at all different parts of the world.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
It is.
And to think that this truly is just a drop in the bucket. This is just beginning.
Yeah.
And where's it going to end up? I don't know. It'll be amazing to see, though.
Oh yeah, but it's still in its infancy, really, because even when we did our studio, before COVID, we kind of started doing, I don't know if you called it then podcasting, with Shaw.
Oh, okay.
At their studio on Queensway.
Yeah.
And, and so we did about 35 segments there, I believe. And they were very popular. Yeah. And then they showed on Shaw on Channel 10 primarily. And then from there and then kind of expanded. And then COVID came. And then I had bought this apartment. And then we said, well, let's create a studio here. Yeah. And do our own podcasting. And that meant having the team, and I have an amazing team around me, obviously, and creating the studio. And then do it first class as we evolved, and then say, okay, now maybe we need another studio in Vancouver. And then after a while we said, maybe we don't do that. We'll do it virtual here. Okay. And still as it all, expands and evolves. And then we changed the equipment to make it just very professional, and it looks very good, and it's still evolving, as you say, as we speak.
It always is, right? And I think that's what a key to successful individuals is, not getting stagnant and stuck in what is working, right? Because it's always going to change, and things are never going to stay the same. And so you have to learn to adapt and evolve and change with it, and keep yourself relevant, and be willing to learn new things, which, I mean, it's hard when we get older. Yeah. But to get out of that comfort zone and try something new.
Well, yeah, I'm 82 and a half, I think. And for me, I do podcasting. Obviously, I have a cell phone. I do email. I do all the other things that I do, for Twitter if I have to. Or
I don't do Twitter yet.
No?
Twitter scares me. I haven't done
Twitter. Scares me too, actually. So as a company, we do it. But all those things for somebody in my lifetime, coming all the way from the telegrams that we sent to going through all of it in full motion, including computer technology that was not really existing until the early 80s, and it's amazing. And then you will say, where do we go from here? Well, nothing we know for sure. It will evolve much further than where we are even now, already beyond imagination. Yeah. Now, the other thing with you is that you were involved in Netflix somehow.
Yeah.
How did that all happen?
It was incredibly random. One day I was sitting at my computer blogging, and the ping comes across and an email sails in. And it was from this person saying that they were a producer for a production company. Right. And they were wondering if I would be interested in being on a reality cooking show. And I'm sure you, with media, social media, get a lot of, spam and prank things. And so I paid no attention to it. I literally just put it in the trash can on in my email. And I kind of thought about it. It stayed with me for the day. And it was still kind of like nagging at me. And so that evening, I went back into my trash can.
Took another look at it.
I took another look at it. And they had their name and like the production company on the email. And so I just, pulled up Google, handy Google, and I Googled the company, and I was like, and it was a legit company. And I looked at some of their past.
A Canadian company?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I looked at some of their past productions, and they had some very notable productions that I was aware of, and so I emailed them back and just said like, okay, what's this about? What are the details? And it spun from there. It happened really, really fast. I think from when I got that email to when I was actually like on set of the show was maybe 2 or 3 months. It was really fast and really spontaneous and just a heck of a wild ride.
So what did they want you to do, or what did you do?
It was a
cooking
show.
Related.
Yeah, so it was for home cooks.
Okay.
And the premise of the show was you had 3 home cooks.
Okay.
And
3 individuals.
3 individuals.
Okay.
That were self-professed home cooks.
Right.
And you had a box, a mystery box, and you had to bid on. One box was a spend box. One box was a save box, and one box was a surprise box. So the spend box would be like your high-end, quality, fancy ingredients.
Okay.
The save box was your low-end, saving money, economical type ingredients.
Develop a meal from it?
Yep. And so you would have to make, with whatever ingredients you had there, you had to create a dish. And the concept was, if you are a good enough home cook, do you need to have fancy ingredients to make an award-winning meal?
Right.
And so we each got our boxes and, the big surprise unveil of what the ingredients were. And then we just set off in the kitchen and got to cooking. And they had a guest judge, a guest chef on each episode, judging the dishes. It was a blast.
How many sessions did you do?
Just the one. So it was the season of the show, Cook at All Costs.
Right.
I believe it was 8 episodes, and it's the first season. And so I was on episode 4.
Okay.
And each episode had a theme. So it was like a theme of cooking, a style of cooking.
Okay.
And that's what the end meal revolved around.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did you choose?
We were given them randomly.
Okay, so you had no choice in the matter. So
no choice in the matter.
Hey, Katie, do it.
It
Open it and say, there you go.
It was such a surprise. I was given, we were all given for our episode Backyard Barbecue.
Okay.
And so for our last boxes.
Here?
No, it was filmed in Toronto.
Where?
In Toronto.
You had to go to Toronto?
Yeah, we filmed in Toronto.
Oh my goodness.
Downtown Toronto in this amazing, huge set that it was like the kitchen of my dreams. It was beautiful.
Was there an audience?
No, there wasn't an audience. They had, oh my gosh, the production crew. There were so many, and
First class, eh?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Very professional.
Very. It was unbelievable just seeing the work that goes in behind the scenes that
but
you
you
don't ever see.
didn't even know what was in the box. Were you nervous in saying,
I was terrified.
Yeah.
I felt completely out of my league.
Yeah.
Because I just cook for my family.
Yeah.
I have no training or experience. And I just, I'm not like a super fancy cook.
They must have seen something in you.
I have some might call it slightly weird love of flavor.
Yeah.
So I'm not shy when it comes to trying new things.
Right.
And taking risks, and sometimes they epically fail and sometimes they turn out great. So maybe that's what they saw.
Yeah. So tell me, how did it go?
It went really well.
So you opened the box, and there were the other people close to you doing the same thing, or what?
Yeah,
How
we all had stations kind of next to each other in a semicircle.
Okay.
And we all like opened our boxes, and they were huge, these boxes, like for dramatic effect, right?
Okay.
And so at the same time, we all lifted up our boxes. And then you had, oh gosh, it was maybe 6 or 7 items in front of you.
Yeah.
And they were all kind of similar in that they were the same type of thing, but the fancy was obviously very fancy, and the spend box, and kind of worked their way down. And I got the surprise box, and I ended up for my very first, cook with chicken hearts. And I've never so much as even seen a chicken heart in my life. So I had to create a dish with chicken hearts.
How did that go?
It was fun. I was scared. I don't think you can see on the episode, but like my hands were shaking the entire time, and I was sweating, and I was like, don't make a fool of myself. Don't make a fool of myself. But it went good. I ended up winning that round.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you did another one after that?
Yep. So that round won me the ability to choose which box I wanted for the next round.
Yeah.
And so I ended up choosing...
You didn't choose the surprise one again?
No, the concept is you had to bid on them.
Okay.
And so you have a bank of money.
Okay.
And whatever money is left in your bank, if you win, is the money you win.
Right.
So it's this kind of, you're torn between, do I spend money to get really good ingredients so I can win? Or do I save money so that I can potentially win more money?
Right.
But I ended up winning the choice to pick which box for the second round. And I just decided, what the heck, let's choose the surprise box again. Because, life is short and I love a good surprise. Right. So we did that one, and that was when we did the backyard barbecue theme. Right. So it had to be barbecue. And my competitors ended up with, what did she have? She had flank steak, and the other one had just these amazing, huge, I think it was pork chops or another like massive steak. It looked amazing. And I had tofu for my protein to barbecue.
Tofu.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we just, again, the timer dings and off to the races you go, and you start cooking away, and they bring out dishes.
You won again.
I did, yeah. I did end up winning that one.
You're very good. So they want to keep you after this.
It was fun. It was wild and fun, and going into it, I just told myself to have fun. Yeah. Baking is my thing. It's my business. It's your business. It's your hobby. You love to do, exactly. And you're good at it, right? Yeah. But cooking was like, you know what, Katie, just go and have fun. And if you fail, you fail. Yeah. But at least you can have fun doing it. Yeah. And they must have seen something in you, right? I don't know, maybe. Yeah. So you came on Netflix. Then they showed it across Canada. Yeah, it was worldwide. Wow. Yeah. And so you have that on your resume as well. Mm-hmm. So you are somewhat a bit of a movie star, really. Well, you could ask my girls, and they would say yes. I don't know if I would say yes. I agree with your girls. Oh, bless your heart. Say, Mom, you're a movie star. They did some like flashback pictures of me in the kitchen, and I'm always cooking and baking with my daughters. Yeah. And so there's a couple pictures of them on the show, and they were very excited to tell their friends like, yeah, I was on TV. Were they with you then when you were in Toronto? No, you know what? They knew I was going to Toronto, but I had to sign a very strict contract. Yeah. And so they knew I was filming a show. They didn't know what the show was. Yeah. They're still young, and we knew that if they knew, they would tell their friends. Yeah. And so the only people that actually knew was my husband, my father, because he had to help with childcare when I was away. Yeah. And then my sister. Yeah. And they were the only people that knew, and I wasn't allowed to speak a word until it actually premiered. You had an agreement, non-discovery agreement. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So
So did it continue then, that show, afterwards, and that you were still involved then, or?
No, it just had the whole season of it.
Right.
It released all on the same day on Netflix. And I don't know if they're doing another season or not. I haven't heard. Who knows? It'll be cool to see. I think that it was a really fun concept, and it was an entertaining watch.
Very successful, obviously.
Yeah, and so we'll see. I hope that they'll bring back another season for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it helped your career in a way. It gave you confidence, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And just another facet to expand into and bring in a new audience.
Yeah.
And
And then, so can you use that particular show on Netflix in a way for your blogging and attracting more clients and customers from around the world?
Absolutely.
So it help you for that purpose, right?
Yeah. My niche has always been baking.
Yeah.
And now that companies can see that, she actually can cook too, that opens a whole new realm of, possibility.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so as a business, then where do you want to go with the show from here on forward and with your business? You're going to further expand it into other areas? Are people doing more cooking? And if they are they going beyond the customary? Are they more interested in what else they can do with whatever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think people are doing more cooking from home than ever before, especially with COVID.
Yeah.
And baking from home as well. I think that there's been a trend towards finding comfort and joy in home cooked meals, and home baked goods.
Yeah.
And I see that there's a new love and appreciation for returning to the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it's something that is very dear to my heart.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great time to capitalize on that.
Yeah. Interesting. And then the other part that I saw about you were quite involved in sports.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. And you were quite active in a number of areas.
I grew up just playing sports. Is what our whole family did. We are a highly competitive family. And so it was, one sport after the next, oftentimes multiple sports at the same time. And I have a love of just being active and moving my body and challenging myself in that way. And it's just something that is everyday life for me. Yeah.
Physically important, mentally important, right?
Absolutely.
Stay active physically, mentally, and then obviously you're a healthy eater, and not necessarily vegan, or but.
We have some dietary things with our family. I'm dairy intolerant myself, and so are my daughters.
So you're what?
Dairy intolerant.
Okay.
So we don't...
Explain it a little bit to my guests.
Sure.
Because my wife is as well,
Okay.
but so that we just know what that means.
Okay, so dairy intolerant basically means I could consume dairy products. It will cause me a lot of pain. I have IBS.
Yeah.
And my daughter has IBS as well.
What is IBS?
Irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay.
So basically what is associated with, you'll have food triggers, and dairy is often a huge one for that. Yeah. Incredible abdominal pain, bloating. It can just wreak havoc on your intestines and your stomach, and
not only with milk, but also with cheese.
Any kind of dairy. So
any
milk,
kind of dairy.
Cheese,
yogurt.
So I don't do any dairy.
Yeah.
And then also, it was about almost 2 years ago, my oldest daughter was diagnosed as a celiac. And so we've also...
What is a celiac again?
Celiac is gluten-free. So she has, it's a medical condition where her body cannot digest gluten. Her intestines will actually basically fight it. And it is an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
So
very important to be aware of.
Yes.
And then
yeah.
conduct your life accordingly.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So we've also become a gluten-free family as well.
Right.
So with those dietary limitations, that's kind of where I found my niche now with baking and cooking is dairy-free and gluten-free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting that you say that because my wife is as well. You know, and subsequently I don't drink any milk at all. I haven't for years and years and years, but I do have cheese, so I'm not adverse to that necessarily, but so milk is just not part of my diet.
No, and there's so many great alternatives now too, right?
Yeah, and very much so. And then the other part that I usually, my wife is kind of vegan.
Oh, okay.
And I call myself 80-20.
Yep.
You know, and that works for me. I don't do red meat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe chicken and fish and.
That's a lot of what we do too.
Yeah, and then I'm quite involved in the gym and competing and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Again, thinking physical health, mental health, and then you know, eating with knowledge or careful in terms of you know, is very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. It all is interconnected, right? One area is going to affect the other area, and the other area is going to affect the other area, and so it's always keeping a balance.
Yeah.
And you know, keeping your body healthy, your mental state healthy, your spirit healthy. It's all connected.
Yeah. And so now in sport, were you a runner or what did you do in particular?
I loved.
You were talking about it just before we got started. You were referring to you were involved in.
I did a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
So that was one after I had my last daughter.
Okay.
I competed just shortly after a year after having her.
Yeah. You competed in bikini or in?
Yeah, in the bikini division.
Okay. And you know, where did you compete? Here in?
Yes, the local one, iron
ore. What year?
Okay, I gotta do my math here. Math has never been my strong suit.
The reason that I asked you because then you know
it was the year you competed. Huh? It was the year you competed.
Oh, I was competing too.
Yeah,
then?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I was kind of thinking.
Yeah. I feel like it was the first year they had brought it back.
Yeah, so I was quite involved in bringing it back because they had it for numbers of years, and then for about 20 years it wasn't there. And then Carly Green, you know, is a good friend of mine, but was also training me.
Yeah.
And then we brought it back. Carly was the promoter, and then I helped her to bring it back.
Yep.
And then, you know, that was the time that, was it 2017?
That would make sense.
Yeah.
My daughter it was 2016, 2017.
Yeah.
One of those ones.
So I was born in 1940, so it was, how old was I? 67 or so?
Yeah.
You know, nearly 70.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, and I was competing, you know, in bodybuilding and physique, and my class was 50 and older.
Okay. And there's no like other class than that. It's just 50 and older. So I mean, so, potentially you could have a huge class.
Yeah. And then a lot of people that were competing with me could have been my kids. So, and then, you know, then I'm nearly, what happened, I went to the gym training with Carly and then Aaron Mowbray. And then she got married and was called Aaron Simpson.
Oh,
was
yes.
Yeah. And, you know, she was also training me. And then at one point, and we were training hard because when I go to the gym, I go to the gym. I'm not there just to chit chat and kind of, and then after a number of years, somebody said to me, "Have you ever thought about competing?" I said, "Me?" You know, and then gradually they gave me a goal to work towards, and then started working and. You know, and started working towards competition. And then, you know, went to the first show, maybe the same one you were at. And so it's a bit of a challenge for, you know, somebody there, you're nearly 70 years old and you're standing there in your little outfit in front of all
Let's
your
call
friends.
it that.
Yeah, and so that was a bit of but I did well, and I was proud of it. And then
Absolutely.
we won to, competed for. So we won the first, second, and third. Won to the provincials, and there must have been 250 athletes there, and I say every single one of them, both the women and the men, belonged there. There was no question about it. This was just not kind of showing up. This was, for keeps, and it was very, very nice to see, and going through that experience, and then qualifying for the nationals and the Arnolds.
Yeah.
And and then obviously then came COVID. And then again, I started going back to the gym again about 8 or 9 months ago, and I'm again competing, getting ready for competing probably this year sometimes, and then hopefully qualifying for the provincials.
Good for you. Do you have to start back then and do a local show and then qualify, or can you take your previous qualification? And
I believe you have to qualify first on a
Okay.
regional show, that then will qualify you for the provincials, and then hopefully from there on in. But by then, if the age limit is still 55 and older for my qualification, by then I'm approaching 84.
Yeah.
And
Good
so
for you.
then they could all be my kids. But I still think I'm going to win.
Absolutely.
I always believe.
You have to. You have to. What's the point, right? That's like, you have to have that competitive spirit.
Yeah.
I always say, why play if you're not going to win?
And even now, I go to the gym like I was there this morning, and and we had a leg day, and this is not tittle-tattling around. This is just like, the young guys. I do as much weights as they do, and do as much in terms of exercise that I'm very, very serious about it.
Absolutely. Good
and
for
I
you.
love it.
And you love it. And that's what matters, right? It's like,
And that's what matters,
If it
right.
feeds your soul, then keep doing it, right?
Excellent, exactly. So you're still involved in some form of fashion in the gym, but because you look in great shape.
Thank you. I do still stay active for sure. I don't do, quote unquote bodybuilding for shows or anything
but once
anymore.
it's part of your life, you kind of keep doing it.
It's absolutely part of my life. I believe, you have to just stay active, and it's how you live a long and happy, healthy life.
Yeah.
So I'm always moving. We're, going on family hikes. With COVID, obviously the gym shutting down, we got a gym in our basement.
Yeah.
And, that's been amazing to have.
Yeah.
Just being able to go downstairs in my pajamas and
And especially when you have just 3 girls. And,
exactly.
So it's all. How old are the girls?
So my oldest just turned 11, and then
what's her name?
Bree.
Okay.
And then my middle is Mila, and she's 9.
Okay.
And then my youngest is Hope, and she's 7.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So they're all getting to the age of, very interactive, and then, from here on in, I have 2 daughters, and they are now in the mid and late 40s, but, I just remember like yesterday, going in the elevator to the hospital when they were born. It goes so quickly, time goes by so quickly.
Fast. I remember having my first, and people would say that, it just treasure these moments. It goes by fast, and you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And you're just so done for.
Yeah.
But they're right. They're so right. My gosh.
Yeah.
It goes by so fast. My daughter, she's 11. Potentially, she's lived more than half her life with us now.
Exactly.
And I still see her as that brand new little baby. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it will always be that way, likely, so
Yeah.
So as you kind of look forward now, and having had that experience of your, with your Cooked by Katie business, where will it take you from here, expanding further in that area and being very active as the blogger?
Yeah.
Which has huge potential because already you have the building blocks is being movie star for all intents and purposes, but being on Netflix at least recognized, right, as being very good at what you're doing from there and then it opens the door further. You have the vehicle in terms of the blogging.
Right.
How do you see it taking you forward?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I am one to seize every opportunity and to always be working on the next thing and take risks and try new things. But I do so always very open-handedly.
Right.
I hold it very loosely in the fact that if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right.
And that doesn't define who I am as a person.
Right.
I mean, would I love to be able to continue with Caked by Katie and continue to, you know, maybe form it as a cooking, baking personality? Absolutely. I'd love to work more on television. I'd love to work more in print. I mean, a cookbook is my dream for one day. I would.
And that's exactly where I was going with this, is saying that, you know, because what I see in you is that obviously you're very ambitious, you're very good at what you're doing, very determined of all the things that you already have done, that, you know, then saying that you're a good speaker, a good communicator, effective communicator, and then that offers opportunities. Then the other one is that what I've done is I'm a writer, believe it or not, and then now I'm with care. I'm saying this, that I was not very good in academically.
No?
I failed grade 3.
Did you really?
Yeah, nobody does really. No. And then I failed grade 7 3 times.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you just not have a love of like learning or the academics, or was it just kind of like, I just can't be bothered?
Well, they kind of, at the time when this all happened, they kind of thought, well, it's maybe as a mental problem of some sort, you know. So, and then after I failed grade 7 the third time, they had to kind of say, well, what do we do with this guy? And I love my parents and all that kind of thing. And, you know, compared to the other 2 kids in our family, they were doing very well. They went to university and all the other things, but not me.
Yeah.
And they said, well, do we send them to the mentally challenged school or do we get them a job?
Yeah.
You know, and so they decided to get me a job as a furniture maker. And the school came out on Friday, and then the kids would have in Holland then 4 weeks holiday.
Okay.
And, you know, but when I came home with my report card, you know, and I failed again for the 3rd time, my dad said, well, you know, okay, well, we'll go. Then he has to get a career as, you know, learning a trade.
Yeah.
And so he took me to the friend of him at a clothing store, and you know, on a Sunday, that was the Friday following the report card, and they found me a set of coveralls. I was small for my age, so they didn't have the right size. So we had to kind of roll them up, and then the crotch was hanging about here. That's modern now, but it wasn't then. And so, and off to the furniture manufacturer I want that Monday, and, you know, and you know, I liked it in a way, but then at the same time, I kind of felt I had been a failure.
Right,
And,
absolutely.
and that kind of followed me for a long time. And then I thought, and then we were, I was born in 1940. We were liberated by the Canadians in April the 12th, 1945.
Okay.
And that always stayed with me. And I knew someday I would go to Canada, the land of my heroes. And I tried to go when I was 17, and my parents wouldn't let me. And then I was drafted into the Dutch Air Force for 2 years. And then I left Holland when I was 24. With very little money. I took $150 when I left Amsterdam, flew to Montreal, then took the train across Canada. That was a slow one, and came to Vancouver, and you know, then fortunately I met a German fella. I knew there was lumber here. That's where I wanted to go.
Oh, okay, so that's what brought you to BC.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I talked to the German fella, and I said, I want to build my own lumber mill. I had two dreams. The one was going to Canada. The other one was build my own lumber mill.
Yeah.
And, he said, I told him what I wanted to do. He said, Prince George.
Really?
They're building pulp mills and lumber mills. You go to Prince George. That's what I did. And I arrived here at the old Greyhound station, a little bit up the street here. The building is still there. And I stepped off the bus, and I had my suitcase with 3 books and 2 sets of clothes. And I had, counted my money about 2 or 3 times, I had $25.47.
No way, from the 150 that you had taken.
Yeah,
and
that's all I had left. And then, but I had attitude, passion, work ethic, and what follows that is success. But
absolutely.
but I still felt that I had failed in Holland, and I had to start over, and I had to prove to myself that I could do it. Well, that brings me to book number 2.
Yeah.
So then book number 1 was interesting, is that I thought about it for a long time, and then after I was here I couldn't speak language, didn't know soul, started as a cleanup man, lumber pile, and blah, blah, blah. Very quickly, I worked for a sawmill here, and it was a year and a half. I was a superintendent. That didn't go fast enough. Then I became a general manager of a sawmill in Watson Lake in Yukon.
Okay.
With the option of buying into it. I was in a hurry, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, at some point, I came back to Prince George and again started Brink Forest Products in 1975.
Okay.
With 3 employees. And then I had thought about I should write a book about all of this. And so hence, against all odds, I always say it took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2 years to write it. And it's an autobiography, and it's not it was not about hurrah, hurrah, John, how good a success he was, but rather the opposite in terms of all the challenges along the way, including PTSD from being exposed to a war zone for 5 years, and then other things relating to not being very good in school and all the other kind of stuff that goes with it. I wrote about that more, and then, in spite of all of that, staying the course, and then, being persistent and believing in yourself, and I want to write about that.
Absolutely.
And that's this book. And the interesting side, I never wrote a book in my life, but it's an autobiography, and it's not one that you can write and then say, I'm going to write another one, because it was not quite as good as I thought it should be. I had to do it the right way the first time. And I think I did it this way. I'm going to sign a copy for you on this one.
I would love that.
Before
Absolutely,
we go.
please.
And then you say, how about this one then? Well, this was another one, because when I was 57 years old, I walked into a store here on 3rd Avenue, books on 4th. So I looked in the book, and it said, Driven to Destruction. I still don't know why I picked it up. And I looked at it, and it started talking about ADHD, and I thought, oh my God.
Ding.
That's me. So, and I kept looking at the book and going through it, and even the guy from the store came over and said, you gonna buy it? No, he didn't buy it, but in any event, I bought the book, I wrote into it in Dutch. Now I finally know who I am.
Wow.
And, and then after that, I didn't really tell anybody about it, because I was kind of ashamed of it in a way, because of the mental problem.
It's a stigma, absolutely. Yep.
And then the other part was that I already have a company here, and I'm expanding the company, and I'm going to go to the bank and say, I want to lend X amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions or whatever it is. And, by the way, I also have a mental problem, and say, well, have a nice day. So anyway.
Yep, I completely understand.
So it took me about 5 years before I went to my doc that had delivered our daughters, and who was a friend, And so I went into his office, and he said, "Hey, John, why are you here?" I said, "I think I got ADHD." So we talked about it.
Yeah.
He said, "I think so too." Anyway, so then it took me more time, and and then probably 5-10 years ago, I started to talk about it more, and I was honored to get the honorary doctorates of laws degree from University of British Columbia. Amazing. I was grade 7.
Oh, wow.
So and I did a presentation then, and I talked about PTSD, the inner child, ADHD, and all the challenges along the way, and then also about a whole different approach to learning rather than structured, in different ways and different forms. And then I'd be remiss if I did not say that at one point, by pure coincidence, is because of the lack of formal education that I thought would adversely affect me. I was not the most effective communicator, and by pure coincidence, actually my ex-sister-in-law dragged me down to Toastmasters. And I said, "No, I'm not going there." Because if you go there, then they say they want me to talk, and say, no, they won't say nothing. And so I went down there, and the first time that I went down there, and I was sitting there listening to everything, and then somebody said to me, and John, tell us a little bit about you. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm out of here." Right? So anyway, I went back the following week somehow.
You did, good for you.
And I stayed there for 10 years. And then
Wow.
I reached the highest level in Toastmasters. Amazing organization.
It is.
I became a distinguished Toastmasters,
Yeah.
and probably one of the most frequent speakers in all of British Columbia. And I still do that today because of Toastmasters.
Yep.
And it changed my life.
Good
it
for
did.
you.
Yeah, and so ADHD then, after I wrote this book here, I said, I'm going to make a commitment. I'm going to write one book every year.
Good for you.
So
Yeah.
then I felt I had to write a book about ADHD, and I did that, and this is the book. And the interesting part about it is that I interviewed in the process about 12 different people, and to have their stories and write a book in such a way that it can be listened to and read by people with ADHD. You can open up anywhere and start reading, and then go back to where you want to go, and that kind of a thing.
Yep.
And so, and then the foreword was written by a friend of mine, who is a medical doctor in town, and her name is Tracy Lotz. And she's a medical doctor as well as an emergency surgeon.
Oh, wow.
ADHD. And, and then the more public we became about it, the book is very, very popular actually, internationally. And the frequency of occurrence became higher and higher and higher, and more people say, "Yeah, I'm ADHD as well." Actually, I did a podcast just today, I believe, with a person that both him and his wife, ADHD.
Yeah.
So amazing.
Amazing. And have you found through, your own journey with ADHD and subsequently writing this book, that the more you talk about it, the less, power and stigma it holds over you? And that the more you talk about it, you find that the more other people are willing to talk and open up about their experiences.
No question about it. I call it a superpower.
Yeah.
I could not have done what I did without having ADHD. No question about it. The other part that was interesting about it, Katie, is that, that I was nearly finished with the book, probably pretty much where we are now. Another book is coming out this July. We were reaching the end of the book, and I know something was missing in the book. That I still didn't feel good about it. I had to find another way, and I, by pure coincidence, run into a fellow by the name of Dr. Tom Romer. And I met him once before on a flight from, we have a place in Victoria, I usually go for the weekends. I met him on a flight between Victoria and Vancouver, one of the shortest overseas flights that I know actually, but 12 minutes or so. In any event, I talked to him, and he is the vice president of academic at the British Columbia Technology Institute.
Okay, yeah.
And he was quite involved in something that up to that point I didn't know, and they call it micro-certification.
I've never heard of that.
And what that means is, rather than, not all people are willing or able to sit in the classroom for 4 years and study all the things they have to learn in order to become good at that one area of skills that they are trying to develop. And that's what micro-certification deals with now already, as it is more recognized by not only people with ADHD, but also with people that have been exposed to trauma. I'm thinking First Nations in a lot of cases, other people exposed to trauma, or just basic slow learners that are not very good at school settings. And in that area, I believe, is opening and expanding more and more.
We need it.
And so what I'm saying is that with this book here, it is not only that people with ADHD should read it, but also that no matter what you do or where you are, you will be affected or be involved in people that are blessed with, it's not a liability, it's a benefit, it's a superpower, that are typical ADHD, and they usually can do 20 things all at the same time. You go from here, there, and all over the place. And but I call it a superpower. And and to understand them better is buy the book, and being very successful internationally. It's also an Audible book.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah.
I just got started on Audible. That's wonderful.
Both of them are, and they are rated very high. Both books.
Oh, that's awesome.
Both
Let me check it out.
Against All Odds and ADHD. Yeah.
Perfect. Do you read it on Audible?
Listen to it?
Yeah. No, did you read your own book for Audible?
Yeah, I did.
That is awesome.
I believe
How
that is
neat.
very, very important.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Oh,
I did with both Against All Odds, and I did with actually with these guys in the room, but around
Really?
when we did it. Yeah.
Oh, what a wonderful experience.
And so yeah, and then the other book that is coming out in July is Finding Your Passion, Living the Dream. Ooh. And again, reminds me of you in a way, but so many people, they have not found their passion or want into a direction, and they say, something, I hate my job, or they're not happy in what they are doing. I said, change, because it affects everything around you.
It does.
And that book deals with those issues.
That'll be a great read too. Life is too short not to follow your passion. Do what you love. You need to. You have
so
to.
important.
It is.
So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sign one of these for you.
I would love that.
Yeah, you like it?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I'm going to give you both copies.
Thank you.
Thank you for being my guest. I'm going to give you a hug once we got these things off.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you for being my guest.
No, I appreciate you having me here. It was lovely to talk to you and get to know you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.